Welcome back to the Rollout. I'm Jeff Pratt. Joining me as always is Trent Henrich. Trent, just you and I again this week. We're going to bring Nick back on next week when we make our playoff predictions. But we are into the final week of our NFL picks. It's week 17 and anything can happen because some teams are resting, some teams aren't. There are a lot of playoff implications on the line. And just to give you guys a recap of where we both are, I am sitting at 145 for 224. Trent is sitting at 138 for 224. So definitely within shouting distance there. Trent went 12 for 16 last week. I went 10 for 16 last week. We have a full slate of games ahead of us. And Trent, you have some ground to make up. So let's just hop right into these picks, starting off with Vikings taking on the Lions. Who do you got?
This may be surprising. I just gotta set the stage first. I'm down 7, so I'm gonna be making some underdog picks this week. I'd have some ground to make up, and I'd rather go for the win than settle for second place. So I'm gonna make a lot of interesting picks this week. But I think it's possible, like Jeff said, some teams are resting players. There's a lot of injuries going into this week too. It's a pretty weird week 17 here. I'm gonna go with the Lions over the Vikings. Dalvin Cook isn't playing. The Lions have a chance. The Lions will either get shut out or they're put up 40. Their offense is wicked inconsistent. They haven't been too pretty, but I believe in Matt Stafford is a really good quarterback in DeAndre Swift, and they have nothing to lose. I mean, they're not making the playoffs. This is just like a game, just for fun. I think the Lions can maybe pull it out, so I'm going with the Lions this week.
All right, Trent. Well, you are picking against me for the first pick. I think, as you predicted, I'm taking the Vikings. I know Dalvin Cook's out, but I'm still going to be rolling with Alexander Madison in that backfield. Kirk Cousins, Justin Jefferson, and Adam Thielen have sneakily been a top 5 wide receiver duo in the NFL this year. I just don't think anything's going to change that. I don't think the Lions are nearly good enough to beat this team. But as we've been saying, it's week 17 and anything can happen. So we are picking opposite teams. No surprise there for the first one. Moving on, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking on the Atlanta Falcons. And Trent, as we know with the Atlanta Falcons, they tend to play their best football after they've been mathematically eliminated from the playoffs. They tend to spoil a lot of teams' playoff hopes. Well, the Bucks are making the playoffs. That's guaranteed. They've clinched at this point. But will Matt Ryan finally get revenge on Tom Brady this week? Trent, I'll throw it to you first.
Well, I hope so because I'm going with the Falcons this week. I think this is a scenario where the Bucks may rest their guys in the second half. I mean, their seeding isn't firm, I don't think, at this point, but it is firm that they're going to be in the playoffs. So there is some value to winning the game. But the Falcons' offense has been clicking as of recent. I mean, they had this Buccaneers team, down 21 points or something like that, and they blew the lead. I think they can definitely get the win and be a little tougher at Tampa. Brady's coming off one of his best games of the year, if not his best game of the year. All happened early in the first half too, so it's hard to pick against the Bucks. But I have some ground to make up, so let's go Falcons.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Bucks in this one. I just think that Tom Brady was en route to play one of the best games in NFL history if they didn't sit him last week at the age of 43, and I just can't pick against the Bucks. The Bucks beat down the Falcons a couple of weeks ago. I'm expecting a somewhat similar result, although when it comes to the Falcons, they're always going to fight. They have a high octane offense. Calvin Ridley, in Julio Jones' absence, has looked like one of the best receivers in the NFL. And I think that we could see him take an even bigger step next year if Julio maybe is somewhere else, if the Falcons are able to move on from him this year. I know with the contract situation, it's definitely tough. But I think that we'll see Calvin Ridley establish himself as the number one option if he hasn't already done so next year in the Falcons offense. And we could see Matt Ryan somewhere else too. All these things are on the table for the Falcons. They're really kind of heading towards a reboot. I wouldn't necessarily say it's a complete rebuild because they have pieces necessary to build a good team around. But they need to fix that defense first and foremost, and then moving on to a younger quarterback might be better as well. But I'm gonna take the Bucks in this one. Trent rolls with the Falcons. Moving on, we have the New York Jets taking on the New England Patriots. I'll go first on this one. I'm rolling with the Jets. And as crazy as it is to say, I think that they might be the better football team heading into this matchup. They are coming off of 2 straight wins over the Los Angeles Rams and the Cleveland Browns, and not just 2 straight wins, 2 straight blowouts for the Jets. What is going on? I know that Jets fans are crying because they've lost out on Trevor Lawrence. Now they're going to have to settle for Justin Fields or whoever they want to take with the second overall pick. I think that that definitely makes them question whether they actually stay with Sam Darnold for another year. Now that they missed out on Trevor Lawrence, Darnold has looked good over the last couple of weeks. I know that Jets fans, maybe the organization is looking for a reboot. I am assuming that they will move on from Adam Gase. Did they already move on from Adam Gase? I think they did. I'll look that up while you're talking, Trent. But they're heading towards a reboot as well, a complete reboot, and we'll see what happens there. But I'm going to take the Jets. I just think that this Patriots team is hot garbage at this point. They're averaging 8 points per game over their last 3 matchups. That is atrocious. They found the end zone once in those contests, and they didn't hit the extra point. So, the Patriots stink. And as a Patriots fan, I honestly do hope they lose so they can get a better draft pick. They lose this game, there's a good chance that New England drops into the top 10 for picks, which it hasn't happened in such a long time, but it would really help. And knowing Bill Belichick, he'll just trade down for 3/3. But we'll see what happens there. I'm taking the New York Jets to win their 3rd straight. Trent, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, the Patriots have been hot trash, like you said, as of recent. They've been pretty bad, but before the last 2 weeks, the Jets had been hotter trash. I think Sam Darnold realized that he was 100% going to lose his job if they had the first pick, and he realized, well, I kind of like being employed, and the Jets may be the only team to employ me at this point, so I'm going to win some games. Now that he knows that they're not getting Trevor Lawrence, maybe the gas will come out, or the foot come off the gas a little bit. Maybe the Jets will slow up, and I'm also down 7 games going into this week 17 to Jeff. So I'm going to be going with the Pats. I think it's good for the Patriots to be at home. I think Stidham could get a lot of time in this game. I think that the reality of it is Newton is not this team's quarterback. And we've seen a Patriots team that has dominated some teams. They crushed the Chargers. They've had some really good games, and then they've been completely dominated the past couple weeks. Maybe something will click. The Patriots will wake up and they'll get a much needed win. Maybe Damian Harris will come back this week, give his team a little spark. So I'm going to go with the Pats here and keep rolling with doing the opposite of Jeff.
Yeah, let me make one thing clear. I'm rooting for Cam Newton in his career. I think he's a good person. I think he's a good leader. That's one thing that has not wavered throughout his season at New England is that people say, or the players say, he's a great person to be around and a great person to rally around. But the guy can't throw at this point in his career. And it's not like he can't throw long passes. He can't complete short passes either. And that's a huge part of New England's game when you have guys like James White and even Damian Harris, as we saw earlier, who's a capable pass catcher. And then Julian Edelman, Jacoby Myers, all of those guys work in the small to intermediate range. I know Jacoby Myers can run routes as a wideout as well, but you need a quarterback that plays the system well. And Cam Newton can't throw at this point.
To be fair to Cam Newton, at least, he probably has one of the bottom 5 wide receiver weapons and cores. I mean, Julian Edelman hasn't played, so he hasn't really had someone to throw to. I mean, he found Jacoby Myers a couple of times, a couple of games, and he's used Damian Bird a little bit. But these are guys that no one even really talked about before this season. And N'Keal Harry, who should possibly be the best out of all of them, hasn't really done that much so far this season. So, I mean, to his credit, he doesn't have the best route runners, but he's also not throwing the ball well. So, I mean, it's not their fault. It's not his fault. It's just a culmination of things just not clicking.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. And if I'm Bill Belichick, I'd give Jarrett Stidham the start here. And I think he should have started last week because you're going to be making a very important decision at quarterback this offseason, whether you draft a guy, whether you trade for a guy, like bringing Jimmy Garoppolo back to New England, which I know Kyle Shanahan shut those rumors down last week, saying that Jimmy G was going to be their starter for the 2021 season, whether you bring in a guy like Sam Darnold, a veteran, Ryan Fitzpatrick. I know, Trent, both you and I would like to see him be brought in if they draft a quarterback to kind of do what the Dolphins did with Tua and Fitzmagic, bring him in as a transition quarterback. But whatever they do, you need to see what you have and Stidham first. And Stidham clearly moves the ball better than Cam Newton. I'm not sold on him, but I think he deserves a chance, at least in this offense.
I think there's one option you didn't mention. I think Gardner Minshew would be a Super Bowl leading quarterback on the Patriots. That's all I have to say about that.
I have no comment about Gardner Minshew, but we're going to move on from the Patriots talk now. This game's going to be interesting for a wide array of reasons, and none of them are because it's going to be a good football game. So moving on, we have the Miami Dolphins taking on the Buffalo Bills. Definitely some playoff implications there. Buffalo has clinched the playoff spot. They don't have much to play for. Sean McVay has been kind of vague about or Sean McDermott, sorry, McVay is on the Rams. But he's been kind of vague saying whether he was going to start his starters or play them a lot. He said that there was a plan in place, and we know the Dolphins have to win this game in order to make the playoffs. So, or they could theoretically lose and still make the playoffs, but you need to win. So I am actually rolling with Miami in this one. I have no idea why they're going back to Tua at quarterback after Fitzmagic led them back to the win. Trent, I know you and I both have been high on him, and we think that he should be the starting quarterback of this team, especially if they make a playoff run. I understand why Tua is getting reps, but if you're trying to make a run and Tua continuously puts you in these stagnant positions where at halftime you're trying to come from behind and you need to turn to a guy like Fitzmagic, you might as well give him the start in what is absolutely going to be his final season with the team. We have no idea what direction this is going to go, but I'm rolling Miami in this one. What about you?
Yeah, this is probably the toughest decision I've had to make because I said preseason on the rollout the Dolphins are making the playoffs, and everyone thought I was crazy. And here they are, one game away from making the playoffs. I'm gonna go with the Bills because I have to do some different picks, and I don't know. Last week, when the Bills played the Patriots, they played all their starters the whole game. Basically, they had no remorse, and they talked about they want to play their starters, and they want to keep beating teams and rolling into the playoffs. Looking good. I think the Bills probably play their starters in the first half and bench them in the second half. I think it's the most realistic outcome for this game. My problem with the Dolphins, if they said they're starting Tua and Brian Flores, that is the wrong decision. I don't get it. When your playoff, hopes are on the line here, it's quite clear to me that Fitzmagic has run better with his offense than Tua has this season. Tua, yes, maybe the future of this team, but we're talking about the future of this season, and Fitzmagic can get them into the playoffs, in my opinion, in this game. I don't know if Tua can. I'm going to go with the Bills. And if I'm Brian Flores, if Tua does nothing in the first quarter, I am already putting Fitzmagic in the second. I don't want to get this out of hand.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I think that this Dolphins team, as they're currently constructed, is better with Ryan Fitzpatrick. And I think if you're going to go with Tua, which they are moving into next year, you need to make a couple moves. And the first one is you need to get a true power back. We both love Myles Gaskin, but Tua, he relies a lot on the RPO in their offense, and especially a play where he can roll out. And they need a better supporting wide receiver. I still think Devontae Parker can be the number one on this team. Obviously, he's struggled with injuries, as someone is trying to call me right now. Sorry, we are filming the rollout, but basically, you need another second receiver. And Mike Gesicki he's been in and out of lineups as well this year. So they need to get better receiver, a true power back to take attention away from Tua on the line. And those are all moves that are relatively easy for Brian Flores and company to address this offseason. I think they'll get it done. But as they're currently constructed, this team is absolutely better with Ryan Fitzpatrick under center.
I think that, one thing you might have forgotten, and a guy that you were actually really high on, I think you might still be high on this. Preston Williams has been out all season. He's been on the IR. You came into the season saying you really liked him. He played he was the number one option when Devontae Parker was out, and he got the job done. He looked really good. Maybe your opinion changed on him, but he hasn't played at all this season.
And when he's played, he hasn't shown me anything. So until he shows me something, and obviously, a lot of the times when guys suffer serious injuries like Preston Williams did, it takes them a full year to get back to their full self. And I hope that's the case because he had a lot of promise. But if he's going to come out and play as he played inconsistently this year, then they need another guy. And I think it's smart to bring in another receiver anyway in the draft or through free agency. Bring in a guy like, I don't know, Nelson Aguilar from the Raiders, who looked really good this year. He doesn't have to be a star, but a complimentary receiver for sure would help this team. But moving on, that's enough about the Dolphins and the Bills. We are going to shift our focus to the Cleveland Browns, who are also in a similar situation, when and in taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers, who will be resting their starters. Trent, I'm taking the Browns in this one. I think it might be hard for you not to take them because they have to win this matchup. And the Steelers are rolling out Mason Rudolph, who is a disaster. And they're not playing most of their starters. They have nothing to play for at this point. So, yeah, I'm rolling with the Browns. What about you?
I am going to go with the Browns, but I think it's interesting because, I mean, the Browns just lost to the Jets, and we thought the Jets were the worst team in the NFL, which doesn't bode well for the Browns. Yes, they had some COVID concerns, but they still have some COVID concerns. They're still going to be missing some players going into this week. And, Mason Rudolph is starting for the Steelers, and he started quite a few games last year, and they still made the playoffs. So he has some experiences as a starting quarterback. Didn't they make the playoffs last year? Or they were over
Did
500?
they?
They might have. But
Keep talking.
Either way, he's a suitable guy to fill in for one game. I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna go with the Browns. Their rushing attack didn't really do anything against the Jets, which is shocking to me. And I think that they need to step up to the plate this week. Hunt needs to step up to the plate. Chubb's got to get back in the groove of things and figure things out. But yeah, I'm gonna go with the Browns this week in a critical game for them to get in the playoffs.
Yeah, the Steelers were 8-8 last year, and they did not make the playoffs. They just missed out. But yeah, I know what you're saying. It was a split between Rudolph and Duck Hodges. So that was definitely interesting. They are absolutely going to be drafting a quarterback this year, or maybe even bringing one in. I know that you kind of have to served by Ben Roethlisberger and what he's done for the organization throughout the years, but it's time to move on. The offense has been stagnant over the last couple of games. There's a reason that they've dropped so many in a row. They were finally able to get it going against the Colts in the second half, but he can't lead them to a Super Bowl at this point. And their roster, as currently constructed, can win a Super Bowl. So they need a quarterback who can get it done. But moving on, we have an NFC East matchup with huge playoff implications. There are a couple of them this week, which is actually very interesting. It is the Dallas Cowboys taking on the New York Giants. Basically, how it goes in the NFC East is if the Cowboys win and Washington loses, the Cowboys will make the playoffs, which means our bet for the Cowboys winning the Super Bowl is still alive. Trend that we made earlier this year. But yeah, Washington, if they win against the Eagles, they're in. But who are you taking in this matchup?
Yeah, this is an interesting game, in my opinion. I just don't trust any Giants quarterback at this point in time. Neither, Colt McCoy or Daniel Jones. I can't trust them at quarterback. Their defense has been pretty stellar. They've had a couple rough games, but their defense surprised me a lot this season. Their cornerbacks and safeties have really stepped up to the plate for this Giants team. Having said that, the Cowboys are kind of rolling. Their offense looks pretty good. And I still believe in the Red Rifle. I like Andy Dalton. I know it's not the same team without Dak Prescott, but they have the weapons. Zeke's been kind of subpar this season, which is surprising, but at the same time, their teams are honing in on their rushing attack, not as much as their passing game. So that makes sense. But I'm going to go with the Cowboys here. I think that there is a serious possibility that the Cowboys win this game and the Redskins could lose their game. So I think the Cowboys should do all in their power to win this game and get a chance to play, in the playoffs and continue their season.
Yeah, I don't have much more to add on that one. I think Dallas wins this game. As you said, teams with playoff implications and a chance to make the postseason, they're going to win games, or they should win games. Otherwise, they don't deserve to be in. And this Giants team is so banged up. We have no idea what team is going to show up. On defense. They've been good consistently this year, and hats off to Joe Judge on that one, because he really transformed this team, which was horrible defensively last year, into somewhat of a defensive powerhouse. And next year they have a chance to make the playoffs, and I think that they easily could. They get Saquon Barkley back. Maybe they get a new quarterback. They could roll with Daniel Jones for another year, but they have the weapons on offense and on defense to make the playoffs. But they're done for the year, and I'm rolling with Dallas as well. All right, moving on. We have the Baltimore Ravens taking on the Cincinnati Bengals, and Trent has disappeared from the stream, so I am going to be talking until he resumes the stream, and I am going to be taking Baltimore in this one. I think that it's fairly obvious. Trent hopping back in the stream as well. As I was just saying, I don't know what happened, but as I was just saying, I think it's pretty obvious. I'm taking Baltimore in this one, and the Bengals, they don't stand a chance, even with Baltimore potentially resting the players, but they won't because they need to win to make the playoffs. Trent, what about you?
Yeah, Ravens should win this game. They need this game to continue on and improve their playoff positioning as well. I mean, the Bengals have surprised us. They played better than I've expected with Ryan Finley at quarterback, but Lamar Jackson's going to get the job done. J.K. Dobbins is starting to get a bigger role in this offense, which is good to see. I'm concerned a little bit about the Ravens' passing game going into the playoffs. Lamar Jackson really, I mean, they just been relying on the run. Lamar's feet, Dobbins' feet, Ingram's feet. They're just relying on the run game right now. But I'm going to go with the Ravens here. It's an obvious pick.
Yeah, assuming the Ravens do win this game and make the playoffs, we'll address this next week with our playoff predictions. But I'm with you, Trent. I don't see this Baltimore team making any noise in the postseason as they're currently constructed. I like Lamar Jackson, but they're just not good enough through the passing game, and they can't win coming from behind. So, well, we'll address this next week. But Baltimore's going to win this game. They're going to punch their ticket to the postseason, as well as the Colts. Or, well, they're not going to punch their ticket to the postseason necessarily, but they're going to win this game and do everything in power, which is our next matchup. They are taking on Jacksonville and Trent. They're currently on the outside looking in. Actually, if you pull up the AFC playoff picture, they are on the bubble at 10-5. They need the Browns, Ravens, or Dolphins, or I guess Titans, to lose one of these games. There's a lot of teams that need to get wins. So the Colts, they win and any of those teams drop and they're in. So they're in a better spot than you would imagine. But assuming they do lose somehow or they win and all of those other teams win, then Philip Rivers' career is over. He's pretty much came out and said that it's done. And if that's the case, what a great career it was. I know that he never won a Super Bowl, never won a lot of awards, but he will definitely make the Hall of Fame in my mind. And he's a phenomenal quarterback, played on some really good teams, a great competitor, and a great personality. So that's our little tip of the hat to Philip Rivers. Trent, I'm assuming you are taking the Colts here as well, unless you're rolling with the Mike Glennon train in Jacksonville.
Something actually to add, you brought up Philip Rivers and retiring. We talked about the Jets. Frank Gore is actually not going to be active this Sunday, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be his last game. I think he's the third or second all-time leading rusher. I think he's second, which is pretty incredible. He's been playing for a couple of decades at this point. I mean, guy's a legend. But to move back to this Jaguars Colts game, yeah, the Colts are going to win this game. I'd love to see the Jaguars upset them, but I think the Colts have the easiest matchup of anyone on that bubble to get in. I think they're, even on the outside looking in, I think the reality of it is someone is going to lose this week. Not all five of those teams that are 10-5 or whatever it is are going to win. I think someone will lose. I don't think it's going to be the Colts, so I'm going to go with the Colts.
Fair enough. I really hope the Colts make the playoffs because they're a team that I think has a chance to make a run. They have a phenomenal defense, and their offense, when they get hot, it is hard to stop. Even with Philip Rivers' passing game, a little limited at this point. He's definitely not perfect, but they have Jonathan Taylor's coming to his own. Naheem Hines is a tremendous change of pace back. Zach Pascal has looked great over the last couple of games. T.Y. Hilton has improved in the second half of the season. Everything about this team is trending up, and I hope they get the chance to give Philip Rivers one last run in the postseason. So both of us take Indianapolis in that one. No surprise there. Moving on, we have the Tennessee Titans taking on the Houston Texans. I'm rolling with Tennessee in this one. They need to win. Houston, I know you love Deshaun Watson, Trent, and I have a feeling you might be taking the Texans in this matchup, but I don't see any way the Titans drop this game, especially, with playoff implications on the line. This is a good team. This is a much better team than Houston, although Deshaun Watson will be the best player on the field on Sunday. In the NFL, unlike the NBA and some other sports, that's not always what it takes to get it done. So I'm taking Tennessee. What about you, Trent?
Yeah, I mean, I really should pick the Texans in terms of catching up to Jeff here, but some words that spoke pretty loudly last week was JJ Watt after the game was talking about this team just not even wanting to win, not even wanting to play anymore, which is kind of disheartening. I think it could go two ways. I mean, the Titans I think could come in here and blow them out, or those words spoke loudly to this Texans team, and they realized that they just slacked off at the end of the season and didn't really care about the outcomes of some of these games. I'm going to go with the Titans. I think just because that playoff mentality is a little bit stronger than anything J.J. Watt can say to motivate this Texans team. I do think Deshaun Watson is the best quarterback in this game, but the Titans they need it more. They're going to want it more, and that's sometimes what games come down to is who wants it more. So I'm going to go with the Titans.
How crazy would it be if the Titans dropped this game and out of the 4 or 5 teams on the bubble in the AFC, they're the one that miss out on the playoffs? Because this is a legitimate contender. They have everything they need. Ryan Tannehill is playing like a revitalized quarterback as he has been throughout his entire short career in Tennessee. Derrick Henry, that is arguably the best weapon to have in the playoffs, as we saw last year, because it is so hard to stop him and teams have to wholeheartedly commit to containing him, which opens up passing lanes on the play action for Ryan Tannehill. And he's got A.J. Brown, who is a tremendous young receiver, and Corey Davis, who's going to be a free agent this year. And I think he's going to be highly coveted because he's really played up to his potential as well for the first time in a couple of seasons, by the way. He's been a guy who every year people are high on and he disappoints, but he's stayed healthy. He's looked great this year for them, and a lot of teams are going to be chasing after him this offseason. But yeah, Tennessee is a true contender. They're going to win this game. Both of us take them. Moving on, we have a battle of the NFC West, which has huge playoff ramifications. It is the Arizona Cardinals taking on the Los Angeles Rams. Just as a precursor, the Cardinals will have Kyler Murray for this matchups, and the Rams will not have Jared Goff or Cooper Kupp. So it's going to be tough for them to get it done, and that is why I'm taking Arizona in this one. Los Angeles, they lose and they're out. I'm pretty sure at this point. In Arizona, they win and they're in. So this one is literally for a playoff spot. There's going to be a lot of energy for this one. I know that this Rams defense is going to get after it. Aaron Donald and company are not just going to roll over. Kyler Murray is going to have to play a good game to win, but I just don't trust the backup for the Rams. And it's going to be the Robert Woods show pretty much. So I just don't trust Los Angeles in this one. What about you, Trent?
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't even heard of the Rams backup that's starting. It's like Woodward or Woodford. I don't even know what it is, but there's no way I'm picking against Kyler Murray with this quarterback that I'd never heard of. And Cooper Kupp's out. It's just going to be too much for the Rams to overcome, in my opinion. They really need it. I mean, if they win last week, instead of fighting for a playoff chance, I think they would have won their division if they won this week. I mean, they've taken a huge turn. They were the favorite to win over the Seahawks and the Cardinals, and now they may not even make it in the playoffs. They're trending down. Kyler's playing. That's trending up for the Cardinals. I have to go with the Cardinals here, and this offense is dangerous, and going to the playoffs, this offense will be dangerous. Going to go with the Cardinals.
So both of us take Arizona. Trent, you're gonna have to start picking against me again as we get down the stretch here. I'm not sure you've reached your 7 yet, so this might be one that you take a chance on. He's at 4. Okay, he's saving them. He's saving them. So this might be one he takes a chance on, although I'm not sure. It is the New Orleans Saints taking on the Carolina Panthers. The Saints have a chance to clinch the number 1 overall seed in the NFC, and I'm honestly not sure. I haven't dug into it that much how they have a chance to do so, because didn't the Packers beat the Saints earlier this year, and they have a game advantage on them. So I'm not positive how it is. I don't know a ton about NFL playoff seeding and how that works. I should probably know more about it. I know enough, but I'm a little confused why the Packers haven't already locked up this number 1 overall seed. But either way, they haven't, and the Saints are playing for a chance to win and get the bye. So I'm taking New Orleans in this one. I think that they're going to jump on that opportunity, whether Green Bay ends up losing or not. Trent, what about you?
Yeah, I think mathematically, I may have to choose the Panthers here to catch up to you. So gonna go with the Panthers. Hey, they looked good last week. I didn't think they would beat the Redskins, but at the same time, Dwayne Haskins was actually cut from the Washington football team. So that doesn't bode well for them. And the Panthers, I guess, are trending up. I don't know if Christian McCaffrey might play this week. I don't know why he would if they've been. I mean, he's been injured all season, but maybe he'll come back and play. That would give them, I think, a fighting chance if he was to play for them. I just don't know why he would.
Yeah,
Um,
he's out. He's out this week again.
so yeah, I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go with the Panthers because maybe the Saints will sit guys. I don't really know why because, like you said, I think they still have a chance at the 1 seed. But yeah, Panthers. Let's go Panthers, baby.
Fair enough. Trent takes Carolina there. A big upset for sure. And moving on, I think he's going to have to take another upset here. We have the Green Bay Packers taking on the Chicago Bears. And I think this is going to be a close game, personally. But I do think Green Bay, they need to win to lock up that bye, and they'll get it done. But, Green Bay's defense has been a little suspect this year, and David Montgomery is playing like one of the best running backs in football as of late. Aaron Jones, they rested him up last week. He's going to be good to go. Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams is by far the best connection in football. It's not even close. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill are number two there, but I think there's a sizable gap between Rodgers and Devontae Adams. Um, Obviously, the Chiefs have a much better supporting cast around them besides that. But, these are two teams that I think we could absolutely see meeting in the Super Bowl. And part of me hopes that they do because both of these teams are going to be really good. So I'm going to take the Packers here. Trent, what about you?
Jeff, I'd rather lose to you than to pick the Bears in any matchup. So give me the Packers. I cannot stand the Bears. Trubisky's look better, but I still think he's not a very good quarterback. And the Devontae Adams connection with Aaron Rodgers is one of probably the most impressive duos in the NFL. They are really unstoppable. Devontae Adams is, I think, the best wide receiver right now in the NFL. No one can really stop him. And I don't think anyone's really going to stop the Packers, and that's not going to change with the Bears this week. So give me the Packers.
Fair enough. We have moving on the Los Angeles Chargers taking on the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Chiefs are resting everyone this week. So I'm going to roll with the Chargers. Justin Herbert, Austin Eckler, Keenan Allen, that entire company, they're going to be much more talented than the side that takes the field for Kansas City, who has already locked up the bye. Trent, I'm putting you in a bind here. Who are you going to take?
I was really hoping you weren't going to take the Chargers, but it sounds like I don't have a choice. So, yeah, I guess we're going to go with the Chiefs and every single backup in Kansas City here. It's going to be a tough one for the Chiefs to pull out, but maybe we're getting lucky. I don't know, really. I really thought, I think the Chargers are going to blow them out of the water, in all honesty. But, Chiefs. Chiefs, baby. Roll Chiefs.
Roll Chiefs. All right, moving on. We have the Seattle Seahawks taking on the San Francisco 49ers. Neither of these teams are resting players, so this is going to be a legit matchup. Seattle is looking to move up in the playoffs, get a higher seed at this point, and San Francisco is playing for pride. George Kittle is suiting up again. Raheem Mostert's out, but Jeff Wilson looked incredible last week. And Brandon Ayuk was shut down to a certain extent, but this San Francisco team has proven capable of beating a lot of football teams. I don't think that's going to be the case this week. I'm taking Seattle and Russell Wilson, despite the fact that they've been pretty inconsistent on offense. It's been weird. To start the season, their offense was insane and their defense was horrible. In the last couple of weeks, it's been the complete opposite. Their defense has really stepped up and their offense has been bad. But I think that that's probably the better case scenario for Seahawks fans heading into the postseason because we know with Russell Wilson and this offense, they can figure it out on that side of the ball. And on defense, if they are playing better, then that's where they need to be heading into the postseason. But yeah, I'm going to roll Seattle in this one. Trent, what about you?
Yeah, I'm actually going to work backwards here. Scratch the Chiefs. Give me the Chargers, and then I will take the upset here. Give me the Niners over the Seahawks. That seems more feasible to me than the entirety of the second line for the Kansas City Chiefs to win a game. I think the Niners are actually a team that beats good teams and loses to bad teams. So I think this is actually a scenario where the Niners, I think the Niners are at home too, could really get this win. The Seahawks have had some bad losses this season, and like I said, the Niners step up at the plate when they need to. They could spoil some seeding or some positioning for the Seahawks, depending on if the Seahawks were to lose this game, they can drop down a little bit. I believe maybe one spot. So I'm going to go with the Niners here with the upset. Go Niners.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think this one's going to be close. Moving on, we have the final two matchups of Week 17 and the regular season. We're starting it off with the Las Vegas Raiders taking on the Denver Broncos. Both of these teams are out of the playoffs and have nothing to play for. So we'll see what happens here. I think this is honestly a toss-up. If I were John Elway and Denver, I would be moving on from Drew Lock this offseason. We've heard rumblings that won't necessarily be the case. And it's so weird that former players that were insane, like legends, are such bad judges of talent, especially at their position. We've seen it now with John Elway, and the quarterbacks he's brought into Denver have been really bad the last couple of years. And we've seen it in the NBA. The best example I can think of is Michael Jordan being the owner / general manager of the Charlotte Hornets and bringing in horrible talent. Obviously, we'll get into basketball. Yeah, whenever. This is not a bad basketball podcast, but Trent and I both have a lot to say on that aspect. And maybe we'll do a basketball podcast as the NFL wraps up. Maybe, yeah, we'll talk about this later. But I'm taking the Raiders in this one. I think that Derek Carr and company are just a better football team than the Broncos, top to bottom. I have seen no way that Denver is going to stop Darren Waller, and that's the biggest thing for this matchup. He's been arguably the best tight end in football over the last couple of weeks. Sorry, Travis Kelce fans and George Kittle fans. They're both amazing, but Waller's been on an incredible level the last couple of weeks. So I'm taking the Raiders here. Trent, I assume you're going to be taking the Broncos then.
Yes, I will be taking the Broncos. They are at home, and I feel like it's a young team where this is another scenario. Both teams have nothing to lose. I feel like the Broncos may end up playing really hard in this game. I think the only person that has something to prove in this game is possibly Drew Lock, like you said. I mean, he hasn't had a great season, and if he wants to end the season on a good note and possibly keep his job, it's winning this game. I don't think. I mean, if they were to get blown out, they may really consider drafting another quarterback or trading for someone where they could get some false confidence or confidence in Drew Lock if he was to blow out the Raiders. I mean, the Raiders have a decent defense, and the Broncos have offensive weapons. It's not like Drew Lock can't get the job done. So Broncos at home too, which helps. I'll go with the Broncos. I have no problem with that.
All right, we are into the final matchup of the regular season for the 2021 NFL year, or 2020. Sorry, I'm already thinking ahead to 2021, which is tomorrow. We are recording that on January 30 or December 31st. I can't get my dates right whatsoever here towards the end of this episode, but we have NFC East matchup, as I said, the second half of these divisional contests. The Washington football team taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm taking Washington in this one. Alex Smith is going to be back. This team is better on both sides of the ball than the Eagles, although I think the Eagles, with Jalen Hurts under center next year, can retool and make a run at the playoffs once again. But as of right now, Washington is the better football team, and that's pretty much all I have to say about that. Trent, what about you?
I mean, there's a real possibility that Alex Smith does not start this week for the Washington football team. And I think that gives the Eagles a serious shot at winning this game. I think Jalen Hurts could be the better quarterback in this matchup, depending on who's starting. I think he will be in the future the better quarterback, no matter what. I think he's a very talented player. I think the biggest question mark is what Eagles defense we see. They put out an incredible performance against the Saints, and then the following week they played who they played last week and lost the Cowboys. Played the Cowboys, and they just didn't look the same to me. I think that could be the deciding factor for this matchup. I like the Eagles. Miles Sanders, his role in this offense has gotten larger and larger, and they're finally utilizing him and his talent. I think that could play a role in this matchup as well. I think the Eagles could beat Washington, Dallas can beat the Giants, and Dallas could get in, and thanks to the Eagles. So I'm going to go with the Eagles here, and that would give me 8 different picks than Jeff, so I could technically beat him.
All right, fair enough. Trent, he took a lot of upsets there, and that's going to wrap up our final week of picks, and we'll see who comes out on top next week. Before we wrap things up, we have the lock of the week, as always, brought to you by Trent. I'll let you say yours first.
I have a sneaky suspicion that we're going to have the same lock. We'll see. But my lock, the lines are moving a little bit on this game. Right now, I think I bet on it at -3. I'm going to take the Cardinals -3 against the Rams. I just don't see how the Rams, with a backup quarterback and Cooper Kupp being out, on downward slope right now, can beat the Cardinals. Kyler Murray starting, that offense clicking, and the defense is pretty solid. I think the Cardinals could really put the work on the Rams. I think the Rams are probably in a pretty low point as a team. I think their morale has to be low after losing a couple big games. I mean, you lose to the Jets, you lose to the Seahawks when you need it most. I just don't think they got it in them anymore. I think the season's kind of just gone to the wind. I think the Cardinals they could win by 10 points. I'm going to go with the Cardinals. And at worst, they win by a field goal and it's a push. So Cardinals -3. That's my lock.
Yeah, you're going to love my lock of the week, Trent. It's not the Cardinals -3. It is, in fact, the Jets +3. They are my lock of the week because I think that they are going to blow out. I think that they're going to blow out the Patriots in this one. I really do. I think that they're going to beat them by 10+ points. So I have a chance to take them as the underdog in this one. Is too salivating for me to pass it up. Jets +3, lock of the week.
I just can't believe he just said taking the Jets as the underdog is salivating. They've been an underdog every game this year, and this is the first time they've been an underdog, I think, by less than 10 points, and you're taking them +3, which is pretty incredible. It's an interesting move on Jeff's part, saying I think he took them 2 weeks ago for his first lock of the week, +17.5, and they lost by, I think, 33. So interesting strategy. 2 of his 3 locks to end the season are going to be the Jets, and he didn't take them.
No, 2 of the 4, because it was 2 weeks ago. Because I've hit on my last 2 locks of the week.
So 2 of the 4, and the only one he hasn't hit is the Jets, and he's going back to them because that makes sense. Roll Jets, Jets, Jets.
Jets. The Pats are averaging 8 points per game over the last 3 contests. The Jets will put up at least 17. It's a lock. Write it down. And that is going to be a wrap on the regular season NFL picks for the rollout. Trent, we'll be back next week to preview the playoffs and as well recap who won. Fingers crossed, maybe you somehow pull off the upset. That would be pretty incredible. And I tip my hat to you if that's the case. But yeah, thank you to everyone who's been watching. We'll be back next week. We will be doing a weekly installment of playoff previews and playoff our reaction to the games, as well as our predictions for each matchup as it goes on. And then we will have plenty of off-season content for you guys, as always. So Trent, thanks as always for joining me. Have a good one, everyone. Enjoy the football on Sunday, and peace.